Hello, this is a Brave Knight Mercenary spotlight on Refithea. Refithea is a legendary support and is one of the 6 devils. She is a fairy who has the power to control elementals. Despite her looks, she is 208 years old. I want to reiterate in case a taboo crossed your mind. No 208-year-old looks quite like this. It's clearly a trap. She fled to the human world when her fairy kingdom was struck by disaster. Upon meeting Fabian and spending time with him, she developed the resolve to rebuild her kingdom and become the queen. She hopes to meet Fabian's son in order to fulfill a promise that she made. Refithea's companion is Granadair. Granadair is the queen of Glutes, which is the elemental spirit that Refithea controls. If you're not convinced that Granadair is actually one of those weird things, the giveaway is that they both share these weird ear-shaped things. Granadair took the form of a little girl to match Refithea and is now protecting her. I'll briefly go over Refithea's skills, gameplay style, and provide some of my opinions on her. I won't be going over the details of her skills, but just the general parts of it. I linked the Brave Knight Encyclopedia in the video description where you can easily read on her stats and skill values. Refithea's first skill is Purification. Refithea removes all removable debuffs from the units that she buffs. She can cleanse stats weakenings, attack interferences, DOTs, and even stigmas. Make sure to read what debuffs are actually removable. There are certain stigmas that are unremovable, and most prohibitions in this game are unaffected by removal skills. Refithea's second skill is Glute Bestowal. This is Refithea's special buff that provides various offensive buffs and a unique reflect. Glute Bestowal grants allies a boost to attack. At +3 and above, she also boosts allies' crit damage and crit rate, along with healing a percentage of their max HP prior to being hit. The most unique aspect of this skill, however, is that Glute Bestowal is a counterattack buff. If an ally has this buff and they are attacked by an enemy, the ally will counterattack based on the enemy's attack value. The stronger the enemy is, the more damage that they inflict onto themselves. This means death for warriors that have very lopsided HP to attack stats. The counterattack is affected by defense and other defensive mechanics. A unit with 100% defense or guards will not take damage from Glute Bestowal reflect. Refithea's third skill is Barrier Bestowal. Refithea gives her buffed allies a barrier that provides incoming damage reduction. It's worth noting that this barrier is removable, and she could provide almost the maximum amount of incoming damage reduction with this buff alone. Refithea's awakening skill is Debuff Immunity. Refithea is immune to all debuffs. At +11, she also gains incoming damage reduction. Refithea is a legendary support most renowned for her overall versatility. The first large distinction about her is her massive support range. She currently is the only support as of the making of this video to support the coveted 5x5 tile range. This gives her massive flexibility in support chaining because you frequently don't have to be too worried if a unit will be in range of receiving her buffs. Refithea's buff also provides many valuable qualities overall. She covers all 3 offensive stats and provides fairly good values for all of them. She also provides incoming damage reduction and a healing whenever the unit is attacked. Finally, she provides your units with a counter while also cleansing them of their debuffs. The general summary of Refithea is that she makes all of your warriors hit harder and all of your tanks more durable, while cleansing debuffs every round. I'll go over what Refithea counters. Being a generalized support, Refithea doesn't strictly counter many units, but her Glute Bestowal reflect can make life hard for various units. Taylor, Larkus, Gunther, Alec, and Catherine are some units that have to be careful about attacking Refithea buffed units, as they have no way by themselves to prevent the damage being reflected back to them. Refithea also counters multi-hitters with her buff, as it provides healing whenever an ally is normal attack. This reduces the effectiveness of attacks coming from Christina, Eleanor, and Catherine. They will need considerable buffs or methods to circumvent Refithea's healing. Refithea's Purification is invaluable against Celia. Celia's stigma is very debilitating if it's on your allies, but it is removable. Refithea's Purification is a perfect answer to it. Any unit that heavily relies on a debuff can potentially be countered by Refithea, but do be wary about debuffs that are not removable. Kaelin and Bane's stigmas cannot be removed, and Elise's charms have 2 charms in one, so that when the first one is removed, the second one becomes active. Just be wary of things like that, and always read your opponent's skills and look for exceptions if it's removable or not. Refithea is also decent at chipping away at Seto. If Seto is attacking a Refithea buffed unit, the reflected damage will knock down 1 tick of his flame guard. This may not seem like much, but it can help a lot in situations where Seto is stuck against Valtor, for example. Typically, Seto vs Valtor is a very slow stalemate, but Valtor sometimes loses the 1v1. With Refithea buffed, Valtor can more quickly take down Seto as he's also killing himself with every attack. I'll go over some Refithea counters now. While not strictly counters, many units have methods to deal with the counter aspect of Refithea's buff. If a unit has a guard or 100% defense, then they don't need to fear Refithea. Some examples being Christina, Eleanor, Eden, Kaylin, Seto, Orfina, Barbara, Ventana, and many more. Ludmilla is an interesting case because she utilizes her HP to deal damage instead of her attack. Refithea will still reflect damage back to Ludmilla, but since Refithea's reflect is based on Ludmilla's attack, which is astronomically low, Ludmilla takes very minimal damage. If a unit cannot survive hitting a Refithea buffed unit on their own, you can rely on a utility support like Granadair, Veronia, or Rafitia to ensure that the unit can attack safely. A major thing to note about Refithea is that her buffs are all removable and are also affected by buff prohibition. This makes units like Yuri, Valze, Helga, and Celia quite strong sometimes. Refithea's Purification can be problematic, but Refithea herself does not provide immunities. This means that after Refithea moves for that round, the entire round is where debuffs can be effective. Just be wary about applying DOTs near the end of the round in a situation where the enemy Refithea moves early on in the round afterwards and cleanses her allies. So some synergies with Refithea. Refithea pretty much works with everyone. She makes warriors and mages hit harder and tanks survive better. Refithea synergizes well, particularly with tanks that cannot heal but are intended to take hits somewhat frequently. Glacia is a good example of this. Refithea's Purification is also invaluable for units like Seto or Gran, as Refithea can cleanse Celia's stigma if it's on them. Speaking of Gran, Refithea shares a set bonus with Gran and Celia to increase max life. This is a very good set synergy for all three units. Having more max HP on Celia and Refithea is a great bonus, but Gran in particular shines with this. This is arguably the most well constructed set bonus, as Celia's Curse Aura can reduce an enemy's defense, which allows Gran's counter to be more effective and also enables Refithea's counter to do some more damage as well. All in the meanwhile, Refithea provides more durability for Gran without fear of having the buffs be removed, since Gran cannot be nullified. Now that's synergy. Okay, so for my opinion, Refithea is without a doubt the most general and versatile support in the game. She makes tanks more tanky and warriors more warrior-y. Her huge range and purification is insanely versatile and valuable. It's pretty fair to say that for a while she was hands down the best of the 6 devils when all of them received a companion update, at least before Celia and Alec got reworked, but even then it could be argued that Refithea is still the most versatile of the 6. She really does it all, but at the risk of doing nothing really excellent. Refithea's counter may seem awesome at first, but it only beats very few relevant units. Most units in this game nowadays have a defensive gimmick to prevent them from dying, and if they don't, there definitely exist supports. It's interesting actually because this trend really got kickstarted because of Refithea. The only recent units that come to mind that don't have methods to deal with Refithea's counter on their own is Alec and Gunther. With the counter out of the way, she still has the healing and damage reduction provided by her other buffs, but there are methods to work around that, especially since everything that Refithea does is removable. Even with that said, Refithea is still very good. Her offensive buffs is classified as a special buff, so it doesn't get removed by curse counters at the very least. Refithea is great in every content of the game, regular arena, guild war, underground arena, and all that jazz. So comes the question, should you invest in Refithea? And my answer is a very middling one. Build her if you don't intend to use many of the game's other supports. If you're new to the game, she's a great unit to build. My main issues with Generalists is that if you want to target towards specific team compositions, there are generally better answers than Refithea, with the exception of Albion, Floria, Grand compositions. For example, a character like Alec appreciates Refithea's buff, but he more so prefers Galatea, Rafitia, or Veronia. A unit like Christina prefers Galatea or Belieth. Basically, the point I'm trying to make is that every unit appreciates Refithea's buff, but they are more likely to have a preference that takes priority over that. Another issue with Refithea that makes me reluctant to recommend her is that she really needs to be at plus 12 at least. A plus 12 legend investment is kind of nasty, but I guess this isn't unique to her as many legends have really powerful plus 12 spikes. Refithea's plus 12 spike is that she gets her 5x5 tile range. This is a huge upgrade from her 3x3 tile range. Anything beyond that isn't necessary, but anything below that is pretty underwhelming. Her skill levels above plus 15 are nice to have. She gets more values and longer durations of her buffs. Overall, Refithea is nice. She's one of the best supports for new players and will remain to be a versatile support even for expert players. Also, don't buy the bridal Refithea costume. I don't care if she's supposedly 200 plus years old. No 200-year-old girl looks like that. Don't end up on the FBI watch list. Just stay safe out there, man. Alright? Thanks for watching my Refithea Mercenary Spotlight. Like, subscribe, downvote, I don't know. Do what you want. Take care.